going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk about episode 2 of the King Arthur Netflix series Cursed. This is titled Cursed. And this episode didn't move as fast as I was kind of hoping it would. We've only got 10 episodes of this season, and so far, 2 of our main characters haven't yet met each other. In episode 1, Nimue's mother charged her to take this special sword, probably Excalibur, to Merlin, who is the king's court advisor slash magician slave, I guess, and she still has not met Merlin. Merlin knows roughly where the sword was because he goes to the village that Nimue grew up in, and he sees her mom who died in a previous episode. So he knows that he needs to get the sword, but he doesn't know where Nimue is right now, and Nimue isn't even sure where Merlin is right now. So my theory that this was going to be kind of an Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker thing might not be accurate. It might be like halfway into the season before we see these two meeting each other. Nimue, she gets back in proximity of Arthur, and then she cuts off Bor's hand. Bor's was the guy who was being a jerk to her in the previous episode. He had some weighted dice, and he wanted to play a game of chance with her, and of course she was using her magic to kind of sway the game, and then she had to run away because he accused her of being a witch. Well, here, he sees her again, and then he's going to try and steal her sword from her, so she cuts off his hand. So she and Arthur end up running away. And Arthur, I started off thinking he was kind of going to be a good guy. I'm not sure if he's going to be a good guy now. We're getting a little bit of shady stuff with him here. When he sees the sword, he's really interested in it. He says, you know, it can be very dangerous for you holding this sword. People are going to notice you, and that's not good because you're on the run. But for a knight, this kind of sword grants you an audience, is what he said. And at the end of the episode, while Nimue is sleeping, he takes the sword, and he tells someone at a church that he is going to grant a dying wish. Of course, Nimue's mother's dying wish was that she take the sword to Merlin. I don't know if we can trust Arthur. I'm wondering if this is a situation where they wanted us to like and trust him, and then we will start to see a darker side to him, and he will end up being a villain of the series. That would be an interesting twist of the knife, but like I said in a previous episode, I like this series, but I want it to be more of a traditional King Arthur thing. I don't mind Nimue being the main character, and I don't mind her being the one with the sword, but I don't want this to be King Arthur, but Arthur is evil. I talked about how you've got all these different interpretations of different Arthur stories, and each one is King Arthur, but I don't want this to be another King Arthur, but. So we'll see where that goes. Maybe Arthur is trustworthy. Maybe he is going to take the sword to Merlin so that Nimue, he can keep her safe. I don't know. But he tells Nimue, because she says, do you think my mom meant Merlin the magician from the stories? So Merlin is a well-known figure, but she's not sure if her mom meant that Merlin or another Merlin, and Arthur says, no, I don't think so. So not really sure what's going on here with that. Meanwhile, an ally to the Red Paladins. Remember, the Red Paladins are going around killing all of the magic users that they can find, and even just destroying an entire village that just happens to have one magic user in it. So they have this guy with them named the Weeping Monk, and we don't know his name. I'm thinking this is Mordred. Most of the time, Mordred is the incestuous son of Arthur and Morgana, or Morgan, or even Morgos. Morgos and Morgan are two separate characters, but going all the way back to, like, pretty early King Arthur stuff, Mordred was made the son or nephew of Arthur, but sometimes he's not related to Arthur. And I'm thinking maybe we're going to get a version of Mordred here who's a bad guy but isn't related to Arthur. If this guy is Mordred, he's way too old to be Arthur's son, but they haven't said his name yet. They're just calling him the Weeping Monk because he's got these like tattoos of tears on his face, and he is going around whispering, killing people left and right, and he is hunting down Nimue and all the other people from her village. And I'm more and more convinced that in this world, the Fae does not necessarily mean fairy. It does not necessarily mean that all of them are magic users, but some of them are, like Nimue. But her entire village was killed, and only she is a magic user. But anyway, not a whole lot happens here, other than Nimue meets up with Arthur again, and he takes the sword, and then Merlin meets up with someone. It's a woman wearing a cloak, kind of a veil over her face, so we don't know who she is, but he says he wants to destroy the sword, and he wants to use Fae Fire, which the last Fae Fire was extinguished like 1,000 years ago. So this series, it doesn't seem to know, are the Fae all magic users, or are they not? I know I've already talked about that at this point, but they talk about stuff like Fey Fire, which sounds like a supernatural thing, but then pretty much everyone in Nimue's village was just a normal human being with no magical abilities. So I'm still not entirely sure what this series' stance is on the Fey. Are they all magic users or not? But Merlin wants to destroy the sword. So I don't know if that lines up with what Nimue's mother wanted him to do with the sword, but this woman who's talking to Merlin, she says if the church gets a hold of the sword, then they will get to decide who will be the next king. And they're acting like that's a bad thing. So Merlin, he says that he is going to do something with him. And he wants to know his whereabouts. He wants to borrow a sword, and he wants clay that will not be destroyed in Fey Fire. I don't know who this is, but they're talking about his kingdom. I wonder if they're talking about Satan or the devil. I don't know. That's something we'll probably see more of in the next episode because they're not talking about Uther. Merlin has seemingly cut ties with Uther. Uther was like yelling at Merlin through the door like, hey, I need you to figure out what's going on here. We had blood raining down on the castle in the previous episode. That doesn't look good for us. And then Merlin escaped. So I don't know if he's working with Uther anymore or if he's going to come back once he's figured out what's going on here because he's been seeing some stuff go on. It is confirmed here that he has lost his abilities. He says that the sword took those abilities from him. So that's interesting. I don't know if he's going to be an ally to Nimue. It's possible that Nimue's mom misjudged Merlin and he's going to be an enemy as well. I don't know. So that's about it for the episode 2 titled Cursed. So I will probably be back tomorrow with another review of another episode of Cursed. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.